Baecher. I'm in the School of Education, and I've actually led a number of faculty-led study abroads here for graduate students, and mostly actually alumni from our School of Education. I've taken students to Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Japan, and domestically to Tucson, Arizona. And those of you who are here who've also led study abroad know that we have gone through some changes from the Elizabeth Sachs days. So now we have a brand new director of our Education Abroad office, Sarah Craver, who's here. So let's all give her a nice hand. Maybe we can like do a little emoji, or we can just clap or give her a thumbs up. And we, first of all, really want to welcome you. It just so happens that our Center for Teaching and Learning, CERT, here at Hunter, is run by Julie, who is an Italian professor. So she definitely understands the importance of study abroad. And I think what's exciting is we're entering a new phase post no travel. CUNY is starting to allow some travel to begin again. And I think we have so many students, undergraduate, graduate, and alumni who are really eager to get out into the world again. And we want to really think differently. We want to think expansively. We want to think about things that are short term, things that can be done domestically, trips that can be tailored to internship, trips that can happen from our computer, virtual type of experiences, and really give our wonderful Hunter students every opportunity that we possibly can to expand their global understanding. Because even though we have such a diverse, multilingual, multicultural student population, most of them have not had the benefit or opportunity to perhaps travel abroad in high school, or if in graduate school in their undergraduate years. So we really want to be energized. We want to be forward thinking, creative thinking. And so that's why we're really, really excited to have our new director, Sarah, here. So she is going to walk us through a number of, I think, probably vision ideas, as well as like logistical and technical components. She's also going to talk about virtual experiences. So we're going to be able to kind of keep our questions in mind and have a chance to do some Q&A. And one of the things that is wonderful about a CERT, and all of you know, a lot of you work with Julie over time, is, the collaborative nature, being able to talk faculty to faculty. We know that faculty are never the problem. Faculty are always the solution, and faculty are the key to student success. So we want to make sure that we as faculty, Sarah, support you because your mission for our students can't be accomplished without us. And we strongly, support you. And we also are here for you, Sarah. So as you start your work, if you'd like to create an advisory board, I know there's a lot of faculty who'd be eager to help. And we all know we have tremendous connections around the world that Sarah couldn't possibly access unless we collaborate with her. So it's a two-way street. We're not just here to have you serve us and, write our forms for us, but we really want to be partners in thinking forward for our students. So with that, I'm going to turn it over, and Sarah is going to take it away with her presentation. And thanks again, everyone.
Absolutely. And thanks, Laura, so much for that introduction. I will share my screen, and I'm hoping I get to still see all of you. Hang on one sec until I get to the right spot here. Oops. Great. All right. So again, as Laura said, I'm Sarah Craver. I'm the new Director of Education Abroad here at Hunter. My time here started late May. So I joined Hunter just before Memorial Day. And it's been quite a process of rebuilding and relaunching that is frankly going to continue for the next several months. I think this first academic year that I'm here is very much a rebuild year because, as Laura mentioned, CUNY has allowed travel to resume for educational purposes. So CUNY wide really is rebuilding, and we as part of that are doing so as well. So just a quick agenda for today in terms of what I'll share in my presentation. And of course, we will have lots of time at the end for questions, but I'll introduce myself and our office and sort of refer to who we have collaborating on the administrative side. I'll give the overview of what the relaunch looks like, sort of just the foundation of, okay, here's where we're going this year, here's where we are right now today. I do want to focus on faculty-led programs and talk about what it looks like to relaunch those that have run in the past and that might be ready to go again in the future. And then also to share a little bit about how to develop a new faculty-led program with the caveat that it will be very much an overview, and we will, of course, I think in future, I will certainly run sessions through our office that dive more deeply into the process that will be more workshop oriented. So today is just the overview. And then, of course, we'll share a bit also about COIL, about the virtual and online opportunities for collaboration internationally. So very briefly, the office looks different than when you may have last encountered it. There were a lot of changes in education abroad. I came on late May. This is me in Annecy, France. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city in the Alps. And then I was really lucky to have a program coordinator who was hired shortly after my arrival. Her name is Emma Heineman, so you might see her name in your inbox as well. And she actually works only part-time for my office and then also part-time for the Office of Prestigious Scholarships and Fellowships. So her role is a unique one where she gets to collaborate both with Stephen Lassonde and with myself. And we thought that that was a really organic role to have because, as we know, a lot of those prestigious scholarships and fellowships involve international experiences. So Emma is really going to understand the students from both perspectives and be able to advise students throughout sort of the life cycle of their time here at Hunter and as they look to postgraduate opportunities abroad. So, you know, again, just a note, the office used to be bigger. We are down to a full-time director, myself, and Emma is part-time as well. So, you know, one of the things that we have for a long-term vision and goal is to rebuild the office. And it's something that I, you know, I'm working on collaboratively with those that I work with in the Provost's office, Office of Student Success. So we're aiming for that. But as of now, you know, just wanted to share this because it does also reflect the capacity that we have as well, which I think is important to note. And quickly, you know, many of you are very familiar with our office and what we do, but sort of the range of things that encompasses administering and managing the Hunter Study Abroad programs and exchanges. I'll get into those specifics in a bit. Of course, we advise and assist students if they're looking at programs with affiliated partners, which involve application procedures, visas, how to select a program, scholarship opportunities that are relevant to study abroad, how to select their courses, and of course, health and safety planning. We prepare students through pre-departure orientations, virtual, in-person, program specific. They can be in coordination with faculty, especially with faculty-led programs. They will be a team effort for those pre-departure orientations. And something that, of course, was always important in this field, but has become increasingly more important is assessing and mitigating risk and liaising with CUNY Central, which really, you know, governs how we run our program, especially with regard to things like insurance, emergency support, coming up with backup plans, coming up with pivot plans and ways that we can support students, especially given the past 2 years, which, you know, as difficult as they were for everybody, they had a very significant impact on the international education field, from which the entire field is still recovering in a lot of ways. And then finally, you know, a little bit of what Laura referred to in the beginning, we also serve as what I would like to consider a supportive liaison for students and for faculty and departments involved. because students have to work with financial aid. They have to work with the registrar, with the bursar, with their advisor, and of course with all of you and with faculty, to ensure that no matter what program they are doing, the courses that they're taking abroad have an organic nature to them and will come back to support their degree progress, to support their full academic experience and their learning as a Hunter student and as potentially as a postgrad as well. So, we sort of serve in that intersection, and I'll refer to that a bit as well. So again, I referred to this, but I love to repeat it. I think it bears repeating. We are in a rebuild and relaunch phase this year. So I say that to say that I appreciate everybody's patience, as it is a challenging thing to do, to sort of relaunch these programs that used to exist. But also, as we're referred to, we are assessing. We're sort of trying to simultaneously rebuild the infrastructure that students need in order to go abroad as soon as possible and as safely as possible. And at the same time, as my colleague Emma and I get to know Hunter, get to know faculty and students, we are trying to assess what are our actual needs as a community. Where are the gaps where we might be able to add some more support for students? Laura referenced internships. That's something I'm actually really passionate about, building more internship opportunities abroad for students. As all of you know, these things do take some time, some visioning, and certainly partner identification and collaboration that we can work on. So I welcome ideas. I welcome if anyone wants to have a conversation about some vision that you have as well, be it for a faculty-led program specifically, or for the larger sort of way we can move forward with study abroad. I do intend to look into an advisory council and see how we might be able to build a faculty, potentially faculty staff collaborative advisory council for study abroad. I am admitting that we have priorities for the winter and getting our students out of the door in the winter and spring that are sort of piling up on my plate. But it is something that, of course, I have on my list to explore this year. And hopefully by the end of the academic year, we will have an idea and a way to move forward with some concrete actions on rebuilding that type of advisory council or group. So this is a very brief snapshot. Again, many of you are, I'm sure, aware of how many students have studied abroad before. And this is but one little snapshot in time of the total numbers of students at Hunter who studied abroad. As you can see, the winter and the summer terms tend to be more popular with our students for a variety of reasons. As we know, these students, they have many things going on in their lives. Their profile is I think, unique in many ways. And so winter and summer offer them the opportunity to do those short-term experiences that allow them to also, maintain all the responsibilities that they have during the academic year, be they personal, academic, or professional. So we do see some fall and spring movement, but we generally are looking to the shorter term programs. And those are also the terms where faculty are leading groups of students, which tend to be very, very popular here, and a great way for students and faculty to collaborate abroad. So it is something that I'm really excited to continue relaunching and visioning with all of you. Just an overview of the programs that we have right now, and again, this is a structure that I inherited from previous directors. And we are, as we rebuild, we're also looking at what has worked, what we might want to reshape and think about. Hunter itself has 9 semester or academic year exchanges, and these are with institutions pretty much around the globe. We have Australia, an Australian partner, a German partner, 2 programs in Japan, 1 in the Netherlands, 2 in Spain, and then also 2 in the UK. So these are academic institutions that, grew out of partnerships and collaboration between both Elizabeth Sachs and other predecessors in the department who built these semester-long spring or fall exchange programs. We are still running them. They are gradually relaunching. So we have 4 that are running again this spring, and then by next fall, we will have all of them back online. So we're really excited about that. Of course, we have faculty-led programs, and we will talk more deeply about that soon, but faculty-led programs make up the greatest number of programs that Hunter administers to students going abroad. And then in addition to that, there's also an element of even shorter term trips, be they field trips or spring break trips, but they're generally, a week-long experience that up to now, I think that there's been suggestion of having domestic options be on the table within the framework of a course, in addition to international options. And that's something that we definitely want to explore in the long term. Beyond that, beyond the programs that we ourselves administer, students can also go on other CUNY schools programs, as well as SUNY programs. That's dependent on whether or not the CUNY institution, the SUNY institution accepts external applications. But there is a very broad range of programs that are available to our students. So they really can go on these external but CUNY, SUNY programs that allow them also to apply some of their financial aid a little bit more closely, and to really have that sort of continuity of understanding the academic consortium or system within which they're working. And then beyond that, we also have affiliated program partners who, in international education, we call them third-party providers. They are external organizations that just focus on study abroad. We have 5 that we actually have a written partnership affiliation with. USAC, CIEE, CIS Abroad, IES Abroad, and ICDS, which is based in Costa Rica. The other 4 that I mentioned actually have programs around the world. ICDS really focuses on Costa Rica only. And beyond that, we also have external program providers that we don't have official partnerships with, but who students have attended their programs before. So places like SIT Study Abroad, the School for Field Studies, Barcelona SAE, just to name a few, because of course the field is vast for these types of programs. As we sort of, deviate beyond the Hunter, I sort of think of Hunter programs as the core. And then as we go outward, to CUNY, SUNY, to these affiliated partners, frankly, the cost goes up and the amount of financial aid that students can bring with them goes down. So, it is a little bit of a challenge to find that right match for the students in that sort of financial space if they have questions or concerns about that, which is why the core Hunter programs that we offer are essential to helping our students really get abroad and have that opportunity that they may not otherwise have. I would be remiss if I didn't share, of course, that, again, this was always important in this field, but it is especially something that we focus on even more closely, the risk mitigation and how to make sure that health and safety remain paramount, remain the top priority when students and faculty go abroad. As I referred to earlier, CUNY regulations govern our decision-making. Again, that's probably very known to everybody here, but we do have to respect the CUNY regulations no matter what, which is why the past couple of years there has been so little programming or nothing that was done on a larger scale. Students did travel independently on a case-by-case basis over the past couple of years. Fall 2022, this is the first term in which students are not required to submit a special petition to CUNY, but just to participate in a program. They still are doing so, independently at Hunter, because we unfortunately haven't had the runway to get our programs up for fall. They will be up in winter and beyond. So students are traveling right now. We have a nice, small but nice group of students who are on semester 1 programs, which I'm really excited about. But just so that everyone is aware, CUNY really is, CUNY Central is where we receive the guidance and the regulations about how we manage our programs. Of course, we also, reference and refer to the CDC, the Department of State, the WHO. These are the other governing bodies that, of course, CUNY uses as their source, and that we also would use to consult for destinations, for safety recommendations, and for support. We do have an insurance policy with CUNY. Again, it's a CUNY-wide policy that applies to all students going abroad, faculty as well, that students do need to purchase. That's part of the experience. So that's something that CUNY offers generally. But beyond that, we also plan with all of our partners. Of course, if we're working with an external or an affiliated partner or another CUNY school, we collaborate to make sure that all of the health and safety protocols are up to the standards that not only that CUNY dictates, but that we deem to be necessary for the destinations where students and faculty are going. I wanted to note that we cover all of this information in pre-departure orientations with students. This is a really key component of our communication with students in order to make sure that they're fully prepared. So we provide them with resources before, and of course they have emergency protocols that they can follow when they're in country if they need support. And again, I mentioned this earlier, and I'll refer to it when we talk about faculty-led, but we have a lot of advanced protocols that we set up in place that will really support pivoting and maybe considering virtual options as we move forward, something that I think we're giving much more focus and attention to, of course, prior to COVID, which is very logical, makes a lot of sense. But in a lot of ways, I think it's somewhat refreshing, even though it is potentially challenging to think about all these things in advance. It really does allow for faculty and for all of our partners to think about what would happen if, and to really have a concrete plan in place so that we can act effectively. So jumping into relaunching faculty-led programs, which is really exciting. There is a CUNY process and a Hunter process for relaunching faculty-led programs. If you have run a program within the past 5 years, that is sort of the statute of limitations on faculty-led programs, then your program is eligible simply to go through this relaunch renewal process. It consists of a petition, which of course, you and I will talk about the program details. We'll talk about how we want to move forward first, but just so that everyone is aware of what this process actually looks like in the concrete step phase, and we can talk about the details a little bit further. But we need to consider, of course, the status of the destination. Is it a State Department level 1, level 2? Those are generally accepted pretty easily. If it's a level 3, there is an additional process to go through. Of level 4, countries are unfortunately not on the table. Maybe fortunately, maybe unfortunately, are not on the table for consideration. And then, of course, the CDC and not only the COVID status of the country, but also the general health warnings that we want to consider. All of these things are brought into mind as we look at the relaunch process. And there are additional questions now as well on this form, which hopefully will inform our process. How are we mitigating not only the risk factors generally, but also how are we considering a pivot plan? What does it look like if we don't wish to run this program because we think it's site specific, right? Do we want to switch to a virtual option? Do we not want to switch to a virtual option? These are all considerations that I think are very important to bring forth. And we do have to sort of write a description about what we anticipate the plan will be when we are submitting our relaunch request. And then something else to think about differently is additional support and backup. Many faculty-led programs, as I understand, again, still very new and learning, but as I understand, many programs were run by one faculty person, and there may not have been an assistant. There may not have been a second faculty person available to support on the ground. That's something that I am trying to advocate for on behalf of faculty. Whether that's with the administration or, with the provost office, like how can we provide more support and backup, and how can we make it meaningful and truly valuable to faculty and students? Because it is challenging to be with students for the duration of a program. And how do you manage emergencies? How, when you need to be instructing, but also supporting the emergency that arises, how do you balance those things? What is the backup plan? So with me, with some of the folks that I work with as well, we really are thinking about what alternative pathways we can take to improve that support and increase that support. So once we've sort of talked about all this, considered all these elements, gotten our draft together of what the actual relaunch petition looks like, this does need to be approved by the provost's office. And then it does need to be approved by CUNY Central. So these procedures are turning around fairly quickly. I would say for the provost approval, generally a week once I submit the application, and then CUNY Central is within 2 business days. They have been pretty prompt about that approval. And again, sort of as Laura mentioned, CUNY is really enthusiastic about getting these programs back off the ground. So they're trying their best to, as long as we have gone through our process, we have ensured that we've looked at all the different elements to consider, they're ready to just say, yes, this looks fantastic, please relaunch the program. And of course, this is truly a new opportunity. If you're relaunching a program, this is the chance to look at how you've done it before, what you might want to do differently, really assessing whether it's learning outcomes, whether it's the itinerary, whether it's, the program cost and the vendors that you work with. This is a great moment to think about those things. And we do need to, of course, consider a new budget, consider how we want to market to students and recruit. We do have a very, very high demand for study abroad right now. Students are coming to us, several students a week. I'm advising multiple students a week. My colleague Emma has even more students she's advising. I think she's advising probably 20 to 25 students a week, in addition to all of her other responsibilities. So we do have a high demand. Our appointments are booked through mid-October. So we're seeing a huge demand. This is a moment to capitalize on that, and really find the students that you're looking for in your specific faculty-led program. So that is sort of the relaunch process. Again, it's very administrative. It's, in addition to that, though, where we get into the substance is when you and I have a conversation about what we want the program to actually look like moving forward. And then, of course, we want to make sure we do describe it, check all the boxes, and submit this to the right folks so that they can process it. For new faculty-led programs, so if folks have not run a program before, I'm going to, again, I mentioned, offer workshops, one later this fall. I haven't selected a date yet, but I'm probably thinking it'll be early November. I will look at the calendar a bit more closely, but our office will offer a workshop for folks who want to develop new programs, and we'll also do one in the spring as well. But generally speaking, there is a process to go about it as well. And you really want to think about what course, either a pre-existing course or a new course that you'd like to develop in a destination could work and really be an organic and integrated fit for a destination that you have in mind as well. There is a proposal process that I will send to you. I think we can probably share it out with everybody afterwards. There's also a faculty guide, which all of my predecessors developed. I actually have to give Giovanna Cuciniello a lot of credit because she created a faculty-led program guide and then also went through the extensive proposal for folks to look at. And it does really help to vision the program, to vision the course that you want to have abroad. So I can share these resources with you. And of course, we'll talk about the timelines in a moment, but generally, short term works best, 1 to 4 weeks, whether that is, again, sort of a field trip within a program course that already exists, or if it's a 3 to 4 week January or summer program. That's generally what we're looking at. One course, if it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks, 1 3-credit course fits really nicely into that time frame, and allows for the students to have a sort of in-depth immersive experience without being too long, and also with fitting in with everybody else's schedule as well. The different sort of parties that are going to be part of this process, the academic department, of course, needs to collaborate with you, with the faculty, to ensure that the course itself is approved within the faculty department. And that's the first step. The first step is really designing a course itself and working with your academic department and chair to ensure that you're on board and everybody's on the same page about the course itself. Then you would come to us with the proposal, and the provost office and I review the proposals together. And then finally, there is a CUNY central approval step, of course. So that's generally the overview of the process. Other things to just note, I think it's really important to share that the compensation for faculty comes directly from the tuition for the course. It's offered as a Hunter course, so that tuition money just goes right to the bursar, and then that is where the faculty salary compensation comes from, which is offered, I believe, at the adjunct rate for the appropriate title of the faculty person. The program fee, is something I want to mention because all of the other elements of the program, so lodging, any food that you might include, any excursions, museum visits, cultural interactions, anything that's going to be, transportation, all of those other elements, we talk about it in the proposal phase when you're working on the proposal, but all of those things come together to make the program fee, the expenses for those things. The program fee is something that students will have to pay It is something separate from the tuition. The tuition is considered just the tuition for the course, and then there's the program fee to ensure that everything is covered. And as of now, we function very much on the basis of at cost. We are trying to build in potentially a small buffer if we need to for emergency contingencies when we create the budget, we create this program fee. But it's in our interest, and I think everybody's interest, to really make sure that the program fee also respects the needs of our students and where we can actually make this affordable and reasonable to them so that they can participate. And we can ultimately get that target number of, between 12 and 25 students, depending on your capacity and what you're trying to build. Again, I just wanted to mention this is more for folks who've never done this before, but it's important to think about your role as a faculty person. You become faculty field director. You take on not only the academic aspect of the course, but also the support person for the student. You are their contact. You are their emergency support on the ground. Of course, our office does offer support to you and to the students, but we're at a distance. Wherever you are in the world, it's a phone call or a Zoom or us doing sort of New York-based support. But you are the one that gets the calls in the morning at 2 a.m. if there's an illness, and there's a lot to consider when supporting students in that way. Our office is going to do the best we can to set you up for success, to make sure that you have all the information you need, whether it's about students or the destination. But, just to bear that in mind, if you want to build a new program, it's an undertaking, one that I think is really rewarding. Ultimately, and a truly phenomenal experience for students and for you. But I do think it's important just to note that you take on an additional role. You're wearing multiple hats in these experiences. The last thing I want to mention too about a new faculty-led program overview is the international travel guidelines. CUNY does have a set of international travel guidelines. I can share that link with everybody later on as well. Julie, I forgot to give it to you in the beginning, but it is something that, of course, we all need to abide by as we are leading students abroad and as we're sending students abroad. So something to use as a guide. I think for the most part, very logical. There's not going to be any surprises in there, but it is really important so that we understand the infrastructure in which we're building these new programs as well. And just a few sort of overall tips for the new folks who might be thinking about a program. And I actually am going to jump to the bottom point first, seek recommendations from colleagues. I think among this group, I only know some of you, not all of you, but among this group, I think there are faculty, I know there are faculty who've run programs before. And these folks, I think, should be your references, your folks who can provide some insight about what the experience was like, some pointers, some recommendations on how to build a successful program. So I do defer to the faculty who run this before and your expertise and experiences as you are willing and able to share with your colleagues. Another point that I think is important, consider the destination. And I think I have heard both from faculty and then also from colleagues at different CUNY schools who work with faculty-led programs. If you intend to go to a destination that you don't know, that you're unfamiliar with, that might present a higher challenge, a higher level of challenge than a destination where you already may have a network of some kind. You already perhaps have lived there, have researched there, have spent some time there. So the sort of number one tip that folks have shared with me is the destination is important, and you need to think about your comfort level and your knowledge of the destination. The more you know about it, the more you can potentially tap into a network of folks you already know, of support on the ground, and also help students to contextualize and understand the culture in which they are entering. So I think it's a really important tip that I have heard from other faculty, but also from other CUNY folks as well. Thinking about that course, is there a pre-existing course you teach that really could align in a destination that, really would be truly experiential if you brought it to Florence, if you brought it to London, wherever the city might be. So I think it's really important to sort of think also from where you already are. Think about courses that you offer that you'd like to just transport to a different destination so that it adds enrichment and academic value and experience for the students. There is the option of enlisting external support. And by that, I mean, there are organizations such as third-party providers that do offer some infrastructure support. So whether that's an office in country where they already operate, where they know the terrain, where they can provide emergency backup, we have that option available to us through some of our partners, but that generally comes at a cost. And of course, my job is to negotiate and work with them to see what is possible, to be very upfront with the partners about the financial profile that we are looking for as we build our budget. But just so that you are aware, especially if you're in a position where there is grant funding or where there might be a donor who's supporting a program, that does exist at Hunter. We want to build that. We want to have more of that. But if you're in a position where you can enlist external support, then let's explore that option as well. And of course, going back to consulting with our office, we will offer 2 workshops a year. We'll aim for one in the fall, one in the spring, where we can really sort of in a smaller group look at proposals, look at how to build a proposal, and then also the faculty guides that I'm very lucky to have inherited and that we will share out afterwards with everybody, just as a good way to start to get grounding and look at the different aspects of what faculty-led really means. So quickly, timelines for this academic year. I know many of our programs run in the winter, and there have been faculty who contacted me directly about relaunching their winter programs. And those who have, we are in the process of getting those back off the ground, and we're really excited. It's only a couple, and that is primarily because of the fact that we are at the capacity we're at. That's the capacity that we can manage this year. However, if we're looking to relaunch either a spring timeline or spring break program, I would aim to have you be in touch with me and working on these forms by November 1st of this year. And for summer 2023, again, for relaunching a program, these are pre-existing programs. These are our office deadlines. February 1st, 2023 is when we would aim to have a relaunch petition in front of us for summer 2023. I'm finding that 3 to 4 months is a tight timeline, but it's something that we can make happen if you have already run a program and you are just reestablishing that program. If it's a new program, we need more time. We need a longer lead time. You need a longer lead time as well for the preparations and for having everything in place. So if you're looking to summer 2023, we will accept new proposals up until November 1st of this year for a completely new program that has not run before. If you're looking to winter 2024, then we'll accept proposals up until April 1st of 2023. And again, that gives us a little bit more wiggle room, lead time, because these things do take a lot of time with the moving parts and the different folks that we have involved and the different departments that we need to work with in order to make sure everything is structured to set you and all the students up for success as we move forward. I got a few more slides, and then hopefully you all have some questions for me. I'm trying to be mindful of the time as well. So I wanted to touch a little bit on COIL, which is Collaborative Online International Learning. And this is something that I do admit I'm not an expert in COIL by any means, so I want to share some resources with you, and I will be learning about it as we go along, of course, as well. But these opportunities generally are faculty partnerships across institutions. So perhaps there is a colleague that you've collaborated with in a different country that you would like to collaborate with further. And it really is a framework in which you can develop a mutual online course, perhaps a hybrid course where there's an element of online learning, but then also, destination travel where you get to work together in person as well. And this is something that I want to point out. It's not required to be formalized in any way by our office at this point. It's something that, if you have a partnership that already exists or that you're building or working on, please feel free to dive into that and explore the different opportunities that you'd like to build together with this faculty partner abroad. The resources I'm going to point out are CUNY and SUNY guides to developing COIL. They already are out there, they exist, and they certainly are extensive. So I recommend that you dive into them. I think Julie might be sharing them in the chat as we go. And of course, we can share out post-presentation as well. But I do want to refer everybody to these resources. I'm just going to do a quick screenshot. But this is the CUNY site for COIL. And it provides a lot of resources as well as a reference to the CUNY COIL Academic Commons group, which is a space wherein you can connect with other faculty throughout the institution who are building these opportunities or thinking through what they might want to do with these opportunities. There are other CUNY institutions that actually do have some faculty who serve as point people that you might be able to reach out to directly. Our institution, as of now on this page, the only person listed was actually the prior director. So the page needs an upgrade, but also I don't see any faculty indicated here from Hunter who've worked on it. However, I'm sure that there are. And if you might be that person, of course, please feel free to raise your hand and say, yes, I know a lot about COIL, and I'd be happy to support others as they explore this opportunity. One more quick reference, again, this is just the Academic Commons page, which, as you can see, active 19 days ago, there are folks, I think, who joined the group throughout throughout the academic year, but it's certainly something where you can consult the resources and reach out to the folks in that group for ideas and collaboration on developing, again, this sort of either online only experience where you're working with other institutions, other partners, or potentially something hybrid. And where we can really support, I think, is where you might want to turn that into a hybrid experience, where maybe there's a week or 8 days or, a summer or winter where you could meet with these partners and collaborate from across institutions abroad. So I just wanted to take a moment to sort of share a little bit, and again, this is probably not news to all of you, but I found it particularly poignant as I was reflecting this past week about, what is a study abroad office? Like, what is our role? Our role really is at the intersection of academics and administration. We sit sort of in an interesting position where some of us are academics, myself included, who, my research has been mostly in the area of French studies. I'm a Francophone, Francophile, and lived in France. So I'm really passionate about French culture, and that's where my research has lay in the past, several years. So all of us sort of come to the table with our own international experiences and our desires to share about them from an academic and also personal and professional standpoint with students. And so we love that substance. And then we also have to do so much administration that comes with it, right? So we do sit at this really interesting intersection between academics and also working with our colleagues who are doing the nitty gritty of financial aid and bursar and registrar and credits and all of that. We serve so many different groups as well. We serve we serve students, parents, colleagues, and then also our international partners. So we get to, again, have this interesting vantage point of looking around us and trying to unify the mission that everybody brings to the table as well, and the goals and the academic and learning outcomes that everyone is seeking to achieve. We wear many hats. We're advisors. We advocate, both for the students, but also for faculty, also for our partners as well, and trying to build partnerships that make sense for Hunter, that make sense for faculty and students here, and that really will represent something that's organic and that grows over time as well, that really doesn't depend necessarily on one person, but on the trajectory of the office and the university as a whole. And of course, we serve as emergency support. We are on call. When students are abroad, they will call, they call campus public safety as it stands today, and then public safety calls me. So that's sort of the way that it works at this time. But of course, we're looking into those processes as well and thinking about how to support students in an emergency when we are, 6 hours different or 9 hours different and miles away. Our goal as an office, of course, safe and successful learning experiences, academic continuity that really supports degree progress. We want students to, whatever they do, we want it to help them move forward in their degree progress. Of course, to have a broad perspective, to seek professional opportunities that are going to be either enriched or enhanced by something international, or that international experience allows them to open a new professional door that may have been closed previously. We want them to have professional and personal growth, of course, and to really build global citizenship, to make these students into global citizens, help them have that perspective that will bring something new and exciting to them and their lives and how they move forward. So all of that to say, thank you so much. This is all of our information here. We do have a general email address, @abroad, and we do use that for, the gathering of materials, whether it's faculty recommendations or third party or, information you want to share. But you please email me directly, of course. SC9851 is my net ID, so you can of course reach out directly. Right now for social media, we are only on Instagram. We're on Facebook, but it's a very outdated page. Our Instagram is where we're focusing our social media efforts, and that's the QR code in the lower right. So if you'd like to follow us on Instagram, feel free. It's very student focused. That's the audience that we're targeting, of course, with our Instagram. And our website, our blessed website, we are working hard to update it. There are, believe it or not, some pages that are locked that I'm trying to unlock that I need to update. But we are really working hard to update as we go and make sure that it reflects the accuracy of what's happening right now. But apologies again we're trying to do a lot of different things, and some things, when the students come in for advising or there's a faculty meeting, those things take priority sometimes over web updates. So I'm trying to balance a lot of different elements. But that was a lot of talking. I'm going to stop my share. And wow, thanks everybody so much.
Thanks so much for everyone, especially all of you who stayed throughout the presentation. I know we just have a couple of minutes left. Just want to open the floor to anyone here who might have a question for Sarah. Feel free to unmute and yeah, go ahead.